Welcome to episode 65 of the AMT podcast. Hope you guys are having a good week. As always, we've just finished with the Australian Big Bash. We've just finished wrapping it up. It's been a long 6 weeks. 44 games. I traded 37 of them. And in this episode, I want to review my trading performance, what I did well, what I could have done better, and how we handled advising positions to a group across the campaign. So we're joined again by Pez, who's not just been following, but trading the tournament himself and even posting his own trades to the Discord group with great success. So thanks for joining, mate.
No, thank you for having me back on again. And yes, it is always a sad time to see the Big Bash end, but it's also nice to have a little bit of a break again as well.
It is, yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's a bittersweet moment. It's been good, but at the same time, it's been quite exhausting. Been trading pretty much every day from 8 a.m. But yeah, we'll get straight into it. I traded 37 games, 30 of them profitably. So that's over 80% hit rate for a total of just shy of 13 points profit, which averages to around a third of a point per game. Now, I haven't factored your positions into the equation for a couple of reasons. The main one being that the general consensus between us was in line, but I think our risk profiles differed slightly, at least in the beginning. I think we took opposite positions in maybe one or two games, but for the sake of accountability, I've only included mine, and how we mitigate that going forward is something we'll discuss later maybe. But as a whole, how do you feel the last 6 weeks has gone trading the Big Bash?
I think it's been really interesting. It's been a really interesting tournament, and we sort of talked our way through it on multiple episodes now, and I think it's gone how we sort of anticipated it would go. At the beginning, we said that we would be relatively cautious, and the first week of the competition was more about learning and seeing patterns rather than trying to pull the trigger and make money. And then I think we said that we'd build to a crescendo, and then once we were comfortable and we felt our way, then we'd really hammer into the stakes. And I think to be honest, as you mentioned, we were both in line for a lot of the games, or majority of the games. It was only a handful that we probably opposed each other, and I think we went well. I think it went well. In saying that, I think there is always room for improvement, and we should always be looking to learn how to get better. But as a general overall, I think it's been a good 6 weeks, and that I think, to be honest, it has gone as I have anticipated. I think in the early part there was a rough period where we had a couple of games not go the way it got predicted. We saw Hobart get skittled for 74 in their first game. And then we know what they've done the rest of the tournament. So it has been a very interesting tournament. And yeah, as I said, I think it has gone how we anticipated, which is we were going to learn some lessons early. And then once we had a better picture, we were able to execute on that and come home, I'd say, with a wet sail.
Yeah, talking to Hobart about that first game where they were skilled for 78 runs, I do want to touch back on that later when we talk about things that surprised us and things that we expected. But as a whole, I agree with you. I think we did excellent, honestly, and I'm as self-critical as the next guy. And we'll talk about the shortcomings and things we could have done better, but I think we traded really, really well. The general consensus between us was pretty much the same. So I think we really gelled. We gelled well. We spoke before games. We spoke after games. And it's actually good that we differed in certain games. It would be really weird if we saw the same thing every time, and it probably wouldn't help either. So by you taking different positions or you offering different views, it made me challenge what I'm seeing, and that's how you get better. But I do also feel that advising trades to a group where there's eyes on you, people are following your trades, there's that sense of accountability and responsibility somewhat. And I felt like it kept me on my toes a bit. So there was never really that temptation to overstake like I might do on my own. So everyone benefits, even us. Now, off my personal account, I did take trades that weren't advised. I think you did too. But I only made an extra 3 points of profit, which is not substantial, but they were riskier plays that they're not always appropriate to advise, like some run line bets, middling the run lines, or just laying short prices in play at certain points in the match. But this is the nature of trading. It's not outright tipping. We're having to navigate our way around a game whilst simultaneously advising positions based on what we think are the most probable moves in the market, which is a really delicate balance to be struck. And I think that we did that really well. I'm particularly proud of the consistency with which we operated. 30 out of 37 games is a very high hit rate. I know it's similar for you. I know you missed a string of games at the end due to time zone clashes, but generally speaking, the fact that we were so disciplined with our staking is what I'm most proud of. I think there was only a couple of games where we lost a full stake. But yeah, the consistency with which we operated and the fact that we managed to make that distinction between personal plays and advisable plays is what we did really well. What caught you off guard? What was the biggest thing that caught you off guard in the Big Bash? Obviously, we'll start with that Hobart game. And what things did you expect that came to fruition, and what things that you didn't expect happened throughout the 6 weeks?
I mean, there were some pretty crazy things that did happen. I remember that Hobart game we've touched on. There was the first game in Perth, and you and I just looked at. I think it was probably the time we looked too much into the historic data, and we were just like, Perth's the road. Or it was Perth. We jammed the overs in Perth. It didn't even come close. And then the first game at Adelaide, I remember talking to you and being like, mate, Adelaide's the road. Let's just back the batting team first innings and then flip the book and back the team the second innings. And it wasn't a road that first game. It was a bit of a sticky pitch. But then all things returning to equal, by the end of the tournament, Perth was the road we're accustomed to. And then Adelaide had 200 plus scores, almost getting chased down as well. So that did catch me off guard. And then that's from I suppose, match perspective. And there was obviously those crazy games as well. Remember there was a heat chase. A heat chase where they I think they were at 13s or 14s to 1 at one stage, and they went on to win it when Matthew Renshaw went on with it. And then the very next night we had the Renegades go from, I can't remember what odds, but Will Sutherland and Tommy Rogers put that monster partnership on at the end, and that was back-to-back nights. And I think those things caught me off guard a little bit. And just to add to what you said about sharing your tips, it's something I've never done before. That's the first time I think I've ever shared tips to anyone, really. So for me, it was like a learning curve as well, because I feel like to trade yourself is hard enough, and then in my infancy of sharing those tips, essentially, putting my balls on the line and saying this is what I think, and knowing that other people are going to follow you into it, sort of heightened the feelings or the emotions that were involved with the trading as well, being like, well, it's not just you on the line. There's other people following you as well, and it makes you want to do better and sort of have a bit more responsible control in terms of accounting and managing the risk. So I think there's pros and cons to it. I think early days, there was a few cons to me, like just till I sort of found my feet and was confident enough to sort of put things out there. And then once I had a string of winners and I was showing that I was capable, there was pros, because I realized that, okay, other people are following you in here now. You can't just ride something in from a big odd and just wait for it to flip into $1.20. We need to manage our, or mitigate our risks accordingly. So I had a great learning curve in sharing those trades that I was on myself as well. But yeah, to answer your question, there was heaps of things that caught me off guard, and there were also things that a lot of the time played out exactly how we did think, and I tend to enjoy that a lot more than the ones that the stressful games where the big odds were getting, or short 105s were getting gubbed. But yeah, it was an interesting tournament.
Yeah. Like you said, when it comes to odds getting gubbed, and this is why, I'm always going to be biased as a trader, but this is why I think trading is so much better. than just tipping, because if you get offered a good price and play, you should take it. You shouldn't have to sweat it out and wait for the event to conclude before you lock in money. Being able to do that, having the luxury of doing that during a game, is what lends to our really high hit rate. Now, of course, you compromise on your ROI a little bit, but it's a small price to pay if it means being consistent. It's good for sanity, um, and it's good to just even out the volatility that comes with, especially that comes with a format like 2020. But we did a preview in the beginning where we went through the data, we looked at past trends, we looked at things that we expected to happen. But over the course of 44 games, there's there's bound to be freak things that happen. Those gubbings, those 1.01 flips, those matches that get tied. So we were thankfully the only game we were on the wrong end of was that. I know I don't want to keep going on about it, but that Hobart game where they were skilled for 78 runs. As far as I can remember, that it was either only that one or maybe one of two games where we lost a full stake. But sometimes you have luck going your way as well. So like you said, that crazy Renegades game or that Brisbane chase where we were on the right side and that was 1.05 or 1.06 odds flipped twice, where we got on around 10 or 12 to 1 and rode it down. And those were like 1 or 2 point winners. So you're going to have a couple of those games every franchise, and you're going to have games where, a team just gets skilled on a road. And even outside of the Big Bash, there's been other tournaments like the SA20. And like you said before we started recording, you had a game where, who was it? At Centurion. They got bowled out cheaply. I think that was recently.
It was just this morning. It was Pretoria Capitals versus Johannesburg Super Kings. And I just looked at the data and I was like, Centurion's the biggest road of all. I think in the last three games, 200 has almost been chased twice. I think there's been 4 200 plus innings in the last 6 innings. And I was so confident, and I just advised the group today. I was like, let's just back the batting team. And lo and behold, they got skittled for 99 or not even 100. And I look at that and I was like, whoa, what the hell am I supposed to do there? So yeah, I think. Oh, sorry. I was going to say. I think what I've tend to realize, and the more and more I go further along this trading journey, is like the data is good to know and keep at the back of your mind, so you know the historical trends. But the most important data there is what is getting played out right in front of you with your own eyes in real time. That is far more important than any previous data. But it's always nice to know in the back of your head, this place traditionally is a road, or this place traditionally is hard to bat on.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And like I said, it happened in an earlier game in SA 2020 as well. One of the earlier games. I've stopped trading it for the last week or so just because it's been full on. But I think it was Centurion as well, where the opening run line was something like 190, and I think it was the MI East Cape Town were bowled out for around 135, which is 55 runs below what was considered par. And then you've got the India-England series, which is happening right now. And the first game was at Eden Gardens, which is an absolute road. And again, the opening run line was 190. And I think England were bowled out for, was it around 140? So things like that happen. It's about having the data on hand. And for the most part, the more data you have, of course, it's going to play out within a certain range of what you expect to happen. But now and again, you're going to get freak results where everything goes against you. And it's just about making that decision in play, when to cut it and not get too attached by what you want to happen. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. And that's where the discipline comes into it. You just have to be objective as possible. Just try not to have any skin in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're always going to see those freak results. And I think I can I think I'm still learning it now, and I hope to always improve on it, which is that the one thing that can mitigate those freak results of going heavy on the historic data is patience. I feel like if you see your opening run line at 190, but you have the patience just to sit on your hands you only need sometimes 3 or 4 overs. It's 15 minutes, and to be honest, like let's say you miss the 190 run line, but it is an absolute road and the guys get off to a flyer. Like I'd probably have more confidence in backing a say a 199 line, knowing that it's a flyer, than going in blind and backing 190 on historic data. And I think that is the one thing I have learned repetitively as the Big Bash went on and now into the SA20. And I think it's something I always need to get better at. I think, and the way I measure improvement is, I've realised I'm not perfect. I never will be. But trying to just reduce the frequency of those stuff ups. Like, you know, when I was in my rookie season of trading, that stuff up was happening every other day.
Yeah.
And then as I got better, it might have been once a week. Now it's, you know, once a month or whatever it is. But I'm just trying to reduce the frequency of that and exercise some patience, because for me, that's the best way to mitigate those freak results that go the other way.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I think that there comes a point in the tournament where you do get comfortable taking positions beforehand, but sometimes in a game where what you think is going to happen, you just want to hold back a little and then wait for the action to unfold. And then by the time it does unfold within one over, the odds have moved so much it's not even worth getting involved, or it is if you're confident as to what's going to happen, like you said. But there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to trading. So sometimes there's been games where I think it's going to be an absolute road, and then first over they go absolutely berserk and they score, and they're going at 12 and over, and then I've missed the price. But you can never think it's too late, because there's going to be some opportunity one way or another that pops up, even if it means betting deep into the second innings. It's just about having that patience and only pulling the trigger when you're sure. There's never pressure to do anything. And the hardest part, and the hardest part, just quickly while we're on this, is that when you're in a group as well and you haven't placed a bet and people are asking, what's the play? What should we do here? You kind of feel obligated almost to actually post something. And a lot of people would probably fold under that pressure, because just for the sake of appeasing people in the group, they'll put out a crap bet. And that's kind of the worst spot to be in. But me having run a Telegram group before, I understand what it's like dealing with that pressure of having to just sit on your hands and do nothing, especially when you've missed an entry. Those are the hardest, most awkward spots to be in. So I think going forward, definitely, I'm more comfortable just waiting things out or just folding altogether and not doing anything for a game if I've missed an entry and I'm just not sure about getting involved again.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing I'd like to add to that is, I think the worst thing you can do is feel like you've missed a price on team A. Mm-hmm. And then because you've missed that price on team A, be like, well, the price has gone on team A and team B's now odds have blown up. I'm just going to take team B for the sake of it, because I missed that opportunity. And I think, again, when I was in my infancy of trading, that is something that I would do all the time. Like, I'd want the batting team, see it's a road, team hits 18 off and over, and I'm like, well, the other team's blown out now, I may as well just get on them.
Yeah.
Whereas after being burnt numerous times, I think I've learnt my lesson there. Or I'm still trying to learn it, and I said, I'm still getting better at it. But that's one thing I have noticed.
And like I said, you'll never be perfect, but just noticing it and nipping it in the bud and just speaking like this between games and just reflecting upon your performance is going to go a long way in making sure you don't make those mistakes. But we're all human. And the hardest thing, I think, in trading is missing a price. It goes flying out, and then you feel like you're owed something, and then you end up taking a position that you had no business taking, and then ending that game for a loss. So, that's definitely something that we all struggle with. But, I think... Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, just on that as well, it goes both ways. It's like not just missing an entry price, but also missing an exit price. Like, I've had games where I've missed an exit price where I could have cashed both teams for, say, $300, and then a wicket falls. Mm-hmm. And now instead of being able to cash for $300, I can get out at evens. But I'm in those moments, I feel so arrogant, and you described it perfectly, like you're owed money. And in my head, I'm like, well, I had the chance to cash out for 300s. I'm not going under that number. And then I end up going the other way and losing 300. And it's like, well, shit, mate, if you just had an ounce of humility there, you would have walked out in a much better position than where you ended up. So that is something I've learned. And I think the other thing I'd like to talk about as well that I found awesome was, having that group channel was great because people would get it. Like it's nice to have a great group of people where they'd get around you when you're doing well, but they'd also understand if you needed to take a break. I don't know. I took almost a week off just towards the back end of that because I think I had 2 or 3. I think I had 2 losing days in a row, and I was like, I just need to take a little bit of time off, depressurize, and just go and enjoy, whatever else. And even just putting that into the group, saying like, I just need a little bit of time to take a break, and seeing the positive reactions around that. It was really fulfilling. It was a really wholesome moment, even just for me. Having, people that I've never met just almost throw an arm around you. So I really enjoyed that. And I think the other thing I really enjoyed was speaking with you. I think the before game was important, but I think the post game chats we had were even more important because there were times where, one of us was flying and the other one of us was level-headed, being like, mate, we were 1 ball away from that going belly up. It could have been a very different night. And it's just been nice to have someone else to sort of balance things out and be like, yes, we walked away from that losing, but I'd take that trade 100 out of 100 times. That wasn't a bad trade. The price was there. It just didn't fall the way we thought it would. So I think that was good. And I think, to be honest, the next thing I'd like to talk about is, I feel like we're going to do a couple of these tournaments together. And the next, I suppose, major franchise one we look forward to is the IPL. And I think for that one, there is room for improvement even between yourself and myself where we can add value to this group as well.
Yeah, definitely. What would you say is the biggest? Well, before I ask you what I think, what you think we could improve on the most, I just want to add to just a couple points you said. I think you made a really good point about just speaking to each other, and I know we've said this on previous episodes, but we can't say it enough. Just having someone to speak to and keep each other's ego in check, because sometimes after a good win, you think, I did really well there, when in fact, you just got really lucky. So just moments like that, and just being reminded that, you know what, a lot had to go your way in order for that to come off the way it did. It just helps you rein it back in. And that's one of the best things that we did, I think. And that was a big contributing factor towards our good hit rate this tournament. And that was managing momentum, which you spoke on in the last episode, where we'd go on a good tear and then we'd hit a dry patch. And instead of itching to have a bet, we'd put the cue back in the rack. We'd take a day off. We'd take a couple games off. Take a week off in your case. Whatever it takes, just to switch off, reset, lower the stakes, and then build that momentum again. Because lowering momentum or slowing down momentum is much better than losing it altogether and rebuilding, because a lot can go wrong. Bankroll management tends to go by the wayside. Over trading, all these bad things happen when you lose momentum. But when you slow it down and you protect it, you still stick with that same discipline. So having someone to chat to, and having a group, like you said, of guys who just get it. They empathize with the struggles. They understand when you've taken a loss. They realize that not everything's going to be a winning bet. Having a group of guys where most of them get it. They understand it's a trading group. They're all in the same position. They all understand that you're not always going to get on for the same price. Sometimes the price moves. Sometimes freak losses happen. Freak accidents happen. It's just, it makes our lives easier. But now and again, you get people who join who are treating it as a tipping service. It's a tipping service to an extent. We're tipping trades, but we're not tipping outright winners. But for the most part, everyone's contributing to the conversation. People are learning. People are improving. And I do want to give a shout out, actually, to one of the star members.
Me too.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Ryan. Shout out to Ryan, Ryan Logan. He's been just a breath of fresh air, because as far as I know, he's never traded cricket before, and he's just not afraid to ask questions, to get involved. He's following our positions. He's kind of putting his own spin on things, and he even had the balls to post trades himself, and quite a few of them came in as well. So he's one of those guys, which is exactly who I had in mind for joining. People who are not just treating this as a service where you piggyback off our trades, which of course is a big part of it, but to contribute to the conversation as well. to give your thoughts, share your trades, and just improve. And it's great to see. And I really hope to create a few more guys like that in the group over the coming months.
Absolutely, and I think I've seen a lot of guys now starting to come forward and put their opinions out there, which takes stones to do. But yeah, to be honest, I've loved seeing Ryan come through with a couple of things. Like I remember there was a West Indies women's game versus Bangladesh, and he goes, "Windies are $1.80 here, or whatever it was. Like they shouldn't be this price." And I was busy at the time, and I just remember, after I'd finished doing whatever I was doing, I checked all the messages through the chat, the backing at whatever price. I saw the odds come in, and then I went and checked the scorecard, and I was like, he has read that to a T, and it's awesome. It's awesome to see someone do that, and that's one of the things I love about this group is it's pretty uplifting. Everyone loves to see other people do well, which is not always the case. I think in other sort of communities, I've seen a bit of tall poppy syndrome previously. Other people getting jealous of whatever, but here it seems to be a hell of a lot of love and a hell of a lot of support, and everyone wanting to see each other do well. And I think that's the beauty of cricket is with the colossal markets that there is, we can all win. We can all eat. So
absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go.
No, I was going to say you're absolutely right. We take up such a tiny space in the trading arena that even if every single person in the group was following our trades, we wouldn't even put a dent. We'd go unnoticed in the market. Even if there was thousands of people, there's tens of millions of pounds getting matched every game. So why not share the bounty? Why not share the spoils? Why not create more winners? And it's great to see that it's actually manifesting. It's actually coming to fruition. Ryan's going to be one of a few guys. There's another guy in there, Quasimodo, he goes by his handle. Now, I know who he is personally. I haven't asked him for permission to share his name. I don't think I asked him about a shout out, but he's another guy that, I'm really proud of because he's followed me for a while. He was in my old Telegram group. He reaches out. He's always contributing to the conversation. He's always waking up to trade the games, and he's another guy that I'm hopeful of. I think he's going to make big strides as well. And they're just a few of many that are coming through. And there's other chat rooms in the group as well. I know we always bang on about cricket. You're a full-time cricket trader. I trade cricket and racing, but there's a football room. There's a tennis chat room. And sometimes I just piggyback off the trades being posted by other profitable traders. And I ask questions myself as well, and even I'm learning. So it's a great group for experienced traders and new traders to all come together to share knowledge and just to create more winners. And I think that this game is hard enough doing it by yourself, but being part of a team or being part of a winning team is just going to increase your odds of success exponentially because most people are going to lose.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things you've mentioned in the past that I love this quote that you always refer to, that iron sharpens iron. And I think it's great to have, two minds that are thinking the same way in a game of cricket. But when you have that number become 3 or 4 or 5 guys reading it the same way, it gives you a lot more confidence going into it. And I think that's a nice segue into how we can look to improve going into the next franchise tournament. And I think we've sort of discussed it a little bit off air is majority of the time I'd say we were in line. We both came up trumps and we both came up trumps in a decent way. And I think the times where we deferred opinions, I don't have the data in front of me, but I would imagine that the ROI on those events where the handful of ones where we both had deferring opinions wasn't that great. But I think when we actually put our heads together and we were seeing the same thing, or like still apprehensive, not overly confident, but both seeing it the same way, I think that was great. And I think, something like when we get into the IPL, it'd be nice to just have a bit of a conversation at the innings break and open it up to everyone and sort of say, how are we all reading this? Because people might be seeing something that I'm not seeing, or that you're not seeing. And I think that's one of the major things to have is just a point in a match where the heat's taken out of it. You don't have to be so zoned in and worried about, having your fingers on the button and just actually having a 5-minute breather and going, okay, what have I actually noticed here? What have I actually seen here? How do I think the game's going to play out? And I think that's one of the most important things to do is utilize that innings break properly. And to have a breather and to take 5 and just go, okay, no matter what your book looks like at that stage, what do we do well next? And then see if it aligns with the way that other people are looking at the game. And I think that's something that we did a lot better from the middle of the tournament towards the end of it. We were in a lot more contact, not just before the game, but during the game and at major moments. And I think that's one of the major things we can do to get better going forward.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on. I think those are some really good solutions. I think that, first of all, I mean, yeah, when it comes to things we could improve, there's always that risk, isn't there, of the group becoming an echo chamber where we're considered the authorities and people probably don't want to go against us and we all end up agreeing with each other all the time. But that hasn't happened so far. I mean, you're happy to go against me and I'm happy to go against you. And that's a really good thing because challenging each other, you find middle ground and you see things that you might have missed, especially if you're biased towards a team without even realizing it. So 2 guys are better than 1. And if we can create 3, 4, 5, 6, however many guys where we're all watching the game and we're all sharing our opinions and at halftime just having conversations or before and after the game, like me and you talk, why not have more people in the conversation? Why not have a 3 or 4-way call? Or why not just chat in the group? So there's so many directions we could take this, but essentially it's just the only thing we want to avoid is turning into an echo chamber where everyone's latching onto each other, everyone's agreeing with each other. It's important to remember that we're here to make money, and by being honest, and sharing exactly what we think and how we feel, there's no such thing as something too stupid to share. And we've really created an environment where no one's embarrassed to ask questions which they might think is silly. Everyone's happy to ask anything. Everyone's happy to challenge everyone. And I think, like I said, 90%, 99% of the time, people that join this group know what they're getting in for. But looking ahead to the IPL, I think we did a lot right this Big Bash. I think we did an awful lot right. Like I said, I'm very self-critical. And I think the only things that we can improve on is just be perhaps a little bit more organized with regards to, what's the word? What am I trying to say? Just chat. I think just announce beforehand the games that we're going to trade, because a lot of people join the group. And I know the group's in its infancy, but a lot of people will join and they don't know what's going on. So just announcing daily, just assuming there's someone new here. So just announcing what we're going to trade, and just at halftime, just having a bit of chatter in the group, because sometimes it does go quiet and they're just relying on us posting our positions. So I do want to foster an environment where everyone is just free to chat and ask what's going on. And it can only be uphill from here.
Absolutely. And I think what you've said there is bang on, because even I've fallen into the trap of being on mute and then just randomly saying I'm back in this team at this price.
Yeah.
I think what I need to do better
everyone's scrambling to get to the computer, or they're on their phone and they miss the price, because it's often hard to get on at the same price as us in something as volatile as T20. Sometimes they get on at better prices, but if they know beforehand what game we're trading, because I know it got to a point where me and you were trading different leagues due to time zone clashes. You moved more into the SA20 and I was sticking with the Big Bash. So if people know in advance what we're getting involved with, it just makes life a little bit easier. So yeah, that's something we can improve on going forward.
Absolutely. And I think one other thing that I've sort of been thinking about a little while now as well, I like to think about, trading like almost driving a car. You have a couple of different gears you can use at different stages. And to be honest, in the past, I've gone from first gear to fifth gear very, very quickly, and then I've just sat in fifth gear and redlined it the whole tournament. And this year was probably the first tournament where I realised it's okay to have different gears at different stages. I might have been in first and second gear for that early part, and then we went on a bit of a run where I was in fifth gear, and I remember distinctly calling you, or even jumping on the pod just before the New Year's break, and I said, you know what? I've had a pretty good run here. I'm having a ripping December. I'm going to chuck it back into first gear or even neutral, and I'm going to sack off New Year's Eve. I'm going to go and drink a couple of beers. And then that first New Year's Day and the next day I said, I'm not here to make money. I'm going to watch cricket because I enjoy cricket anyway. But I'm literally just going to try and earn a tenner and take the missus out for an ice cream. So
you know what, that car analogy is probably the best thing you could have come up with. Because it is so right. When you're getting from